Now I'm muted. There we go. Now I have sound. Make sure this microphone's coming through as well.
Hello, hello.
You there on the live stream? Nope. Let's put that up to the top.
More login.
Test, test. Test, test. Right.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for making this out on a rainy Saturday morning. I hope you got your notes. There will be an exam afterwards. But the good news is you can use artificial intelligence to take your exam. So you should do really well. I am really glad you're here. And to alleviate any of fears of yours, like why is the old guy leading a seminar on artificial intelligence? He's not. He's welcoming you. And yet, I've had some interaction with AI. I teach a course at the seminary downtown Cleveland, and I teach it on preaching and I teach it on Greek. I have to tell my students, okay, you're not allowed to go and ask artificial intelligence to write you a sermon on Matthew chapter 6, verses 1 through 12, because it can do that. So I've interacted with that. A friend of mine who's been a paraplegic since the 1980s, he passed away a couple of years ago. I loved Pete, did his funeral. I just read of someone in the Akron area who, through artificial intelligence, is now a paraplegic, is now beginning to move his hands and his feet. So you see all of those things. I was telling David earlier, the Beatles came out with their last song last year. Did you read it? It's actually a pretty good song. They really did. John Lennon's wife gave Paul McCartney a cassette tape of John plunking at the piano in the 1970s. He died in 80. You remember that? He was assassinated in 80. Well, McCartney took the tape, and this is what we heard. McCartney took the tape of Lennon's voice, then he and Ringo went into the studio and did all the instruments around it. And then there was this talk about artificial intelligence put Lennon's tape together. And it's like, wait a minute, that's not John Lennon's voice? And they came back and said, oh, it absolutely is John Lennon's voice. What artificial intelligence did was it completely cleaned up the tape, hearing sounds that the human ear couldn't even hear, so that Lennon's voice would come through more and more clearly. All that to say, yeah, I've interacted a bit with AI as well, but you don't want me being your main lecturer. And I'll bring David up in a second. I just learned this morning. We've been worried about AI and computers forever. In 1954, Andrew Brown wrote a little short story called Answer. And it's a story of the scientists that finally build this massive, in 1954, massive intelligent computer. And they think they've got it working. They've got it working. It's a very short story. And finally, toward the end, they get it to turn on. And he's one of the scientists is going to ask the computer one question that no one or no computer has ever been able to answer before. And they ask the computer, is there a God? To which the computer answers, now there is. So I think this is going to be a really enlightening several hours. As you can see at the bottom of the screen, as you have questions, you can text your questions, and toward the end of the time, they will be answered. Does that sound good? You all ready? Okay. David, come on up. David is our worship pastor. Some of you in first service last Sunday realized he's a pretty good preaching pastor. But one of the main things that he does that you probably don't know around here, he's our tech expert. I mean, to the point where we annoy him. Yeah, we're all experts in quotes, right? So when this thing became a thing, and I thought, boy, it would be really good to do a deep dive on this. I knew I could never in a million years pull it off, but I knew the guy who could. And so for the last, couple of months, he's read more books and has been studying more on this than anybody I know. So from a position of understanding and knowledge, as much as you can, away you go. Thank you.
Alrighty. AI, or artificial intelligence, is the science and engineering of creating machines and systems that perform tasks that normally require human intelligence. Understanding language, recognizing images, playing games, or making decisions. AI is not a new idea, but it has become more powerful and pervasive in recent years thanks to advances in computing, data, and algorithms. AI can potentially revolutionize many aspects of our lives, including ministry work, but it also raises important ethical, social, and theological questions that we need to address as Christians. In this seminar, we will explore the history of AI, its current uses, and what may come in the future, while attempting to provide some pastoral guidance. We will also include information about technology and the internet from a Christian perspective. Our goal is to help you understand the opportunities and challenges that AI presents for our faith and how we can engage with it in a way that honors God and serves our neighbors. We'll begin by tracing the origins and development of AI from its early inspirations and aspirations to its breakthroughs and limitations to its current state and trends. We will then examine some of the common applications and domains of AI, such as healthcare, education, entertainment, and social media, and how they affect our lives and society. We will also look at some of the emerging and future possibilities of AI, such as superintelligence, artificial general intelligence, and artificial life, and what they imply for our understanding of ourselves and for our world. Throughout the seminar, we will also reflect on the biblical and theological implications of AI and how it relates to our beliefs and values of Christians. We will consider questions such as, what does it mean to be human in the age of AI? How does AI affect our relationship we cultivate with God, ourselves, and others? How can we use AI to glorify God and to love our neighbors? How can we cultivate a Christian worldview and ethics in relation to AI? And how can we prepare for the future of AI and its impact on our lives and the world? We hope that this seminar will be informative, interactive, and inspiring. We will have questions. We encourage you to pray for wisdom and discernment as we explore this topic together. Let me pray before we get going here. God, we thank you that you have given us a planet full of things for us to discover. We thank you that you've given us a mandate to go and to fill the earth and subdue it, and to discover new technologies to make our lives better and the lives of those around us better. But with every new technology, many things change. And we pray that as we have approached technology throughout history, that we would approach this technology with wisdom and guidance and discernment. In Jesus' name, amen. So everything I read was written by AI, to start this off. My entire introduction thing, I put in about 3 sentences and said, come up with something for me for an introduction. And that's normal. I will not be reading notes like that the whole time. Do not worry. But I had an AI go ahead and write that for me, just to give you an example. I realized I need a very important book. I'll be right back. It's a very important book. Ian says you should never put other books on top of your Bible, but that's okay. All right, so, however, I fed the AI enough information coming into the seminar that introduction pretty much covers what we're going to be doing for the rest of the day. Some of you will leave today going, wow, this stuff is kind of cool. Some of you will leave doing this.
Like, how do they know who you are?
Yeah.
Okay. There are these things called cookies where, like, if you go to a site and buy something, it'll remember you and then create ads for other stuff you might want to buy.
So it learns information about me? Seems like an invasion of privacy.
Dude, if you think that's bad, go to Google Earth and type in your address.
So, yeah, that could be some of you by the end of today as well. All right, so we're gonna have a little bit of fun to begin, and then we'll have a few fun breaks in the middle of all this. There's a lot of information today. So first of all, we've got these are just some popular AI that we have seen throughout TV and movies. Anybody know what the top left corner is? Who that is? That is Hal. Yes, Hal is from 2001: A Space Odyssey, and he's terrifying. How about moving over to those two like robot-y guys? Anyone know those? Oh yeah, good. And then of course R2D2 and C3PO. Johnny 5. Well, Johnny 5 is on there, and then yes, we have the Terminator robot. Yep, Baymax. He's your personal healthcare companion. That's this guy here. If you don't know Baymax. Vision is interesting if you've seen the Marvel movies because he's sort of like supposed to be a hybrid AI and human, sort of like alive kind of thing. Any Lost in Space fans? Yeah, great. Anyone seen this movie that came out, I think, last year in I think it came out in summer of 23. Now I can't remember what it's called. Oh, The Creator. And then that was I, Robot, which was based on a book written by Isaac Asimov, and then the movie was a Will Smith movie. Now, the Creator movie was very interesting. It came on, I wanted to see it when it came out this summer, but didn't get to go see it, so now it's streaming somewhere. And I watched it thinking, oh, this will be great for my seminar. And it was, because the plot of this movie with this little boy robot is that the world created very intelligent AI, and then the AI got really smart and sort of created their own race. And the government of the United States, there was some sort of nuclear explosion in Los Angeles, and the government assumed that it was the AI that set off the bomb, and they began to eliminate AI. So the United States government went on a mission to destroy all of the AI from the earth, and there was they basically all moved to Southeast Asia, and they set up like a camp there. And there was one line when the military was doing a covert operation, and there was an AI camp underground, and above ground was sort of a farming community. And they began to go find the tunnels. And the people in the farming community were yelling at them. And one of the ladies said, "They are more alive than you are." And I thought, wow, that was a very interesting line. And that is one of the big questions we're going to be talking about today. But if you look at this, though, so take away some of the evil ones. So we got Baymax and Vision, R2D2, C3PO, even Johnny 5. Anyone ever seen Short Circuit? I watched that movie like 12 times a month when I was growing up. I don't know, my brother and I just loved that movie. We treat our robots in movies as people, as part of the family. Like when Johnny 5 dies, at the end of the second movie, he makes it through the first one. But if he dies at the end of the second movie, he comes back, don't worry. There is deep sorrow by everyone that is involved in it and by you watching it. Vision's whole situation still confuses me, because if you've seen the movie, they sacrifice thousands of lives to save his. I'm like, we don't exchange lives for lives, but you exchange 10,000 lives for his one. And he's a robot. So we treat these robots in movies as they're like even more than pets. Other examples of some AI I may have heard of, I don't have slides for, is anyone ever seen the show Person of Interest? Okay, that's a little bit more real than I want to get to today. But Person of Interest is this show where they've built this machine to help combat mostly terrorism and stuff like that, and they use cameras powered by AI computers to use facial recognition to try to stop bad things from happening. And that machine becomes sentient, and then it's the whole thing. Of course, the Matrix is just its own thing too, where the humans tried to build something that would improve their lives, and then it ended up taking over their lives. And the last one, I won't ask for the raise of hands on this one, because no one should admit that they've seen this show. I've not seen it, I just read about it. Westworld, the new one, not the old one, if you've seen that, that's fine. But there's a new one on HBO, and some of you are going, and they created not robots, but they created an advanced virtual reality simulation that then lets you do whatever you want in there. And people have done really cool things in there, and people have done really awful things in there. And then the computers went, whoa, we hate having awful things done to us. We're going to fight back. All right, so there are a lot of potential uses for AI, good and bad. Generative AI is why you're here. Generative AI, which we'll talk about what that means in a minute, but that is why AI is in the news. That's why everyone's talking about it, because for the last 13 months, generative AI has been this thing that we didn't know before. But AI has been around a long, long time. So let's pull up your notes. This is where you get to make some guesses. I realized I put these in the wrong order. But so first thing I'm going to do is I want you to guess, is it AI or Solomon? So I fed AI a prompt, and I said, I want you to come up with some proverbs for me in the style of the English Standard Version Bible. And then I also took some really obscure proverbs, and I want you to guess what you think. So here's our first proverb. Don't wear yourself out to get rich because you know better. Stop. Is that AI or the English Standard Version of the Bible? Should we see the answer? That is Proverbs 23:4. I was trying to decide whether this is really a test of knowing AI or knowing your Bible. All right, so next we have, a friend's counsel is a treasure chest of gems. Seek wisdom from those who have weathered life's storms, and your sails shall find steady winds. AI or Proverbs? Who thinks AI? Who thinks that's Proverbs? Some of both. That is AI. All right, next we have, as blacksmith shapes iron upon the anvil, so adversity tempers the soul. AI? Proverbs. Okay, I don't want to answer and get it wrong. Okay, that is AI. That is AI. All right, next we have, the righteous cares about his animal's health, but even the merciful acts of the wicked are cruel. Proverbs? AI. Most of you are not answering. That's Proverbs 12:10. All right. The tongue, a restless flame, could ignite forests or warm hearts. AI? Proverbs. That's AI. All right, one more. Here we go. A contrary person spreads conflict, and a gossip separates close friends. I mean, that's kind of a good thing to know anyway. AI? Proverbs. That is Proverbs 16:28. So, all right. So now for the next one, I'm going to go through all of these, and then I'll go back and give you the answers. So this is to see, can you spot AI from a real artist's work? So all of these things. Now, some of them are not like photos. Some of them are, or videos. We have some videos in here too. But most of them are like computer-generated something or other, or videos edited on a computer. So I'm going to show some things, and then you have to write down on your little paper there whether you think it's AI or a real person. And then we'll go back, and then we can see. All right, so first we have this little scene here. All right, AI or a real person that did that. Next we have whatever this is. AI or a real person? Next we have, is it going to play the video? There it goes. Okay, cool. Next we have this video. Anyone want to go there? We can go there? Okay. All right, cool. That's all right. Next we have, this is a video too, I think. Yep. All right, next we have this little shot here. AI or real. Next, some birds. And then, nice little train scene. Like to go there also. AI or real? It's this guy. AI or real? This picture? That's a really cool picture. I don't know what number we're on. Oh, good. So this is 11? Great. Alrighty, last one. AI or real? Another video. All right. Everybody got all their answers down? Spoiler alert, they're all AI. I have to show you one in particular. So the videos, all the videos that you see are from a new, as of yet unreleased version of ChatGPT, which is one of the biggest generative AI programs out there. And they released some demos of it, so you can just download those videos from their website, but they don't let anyone else go and generate their own videos yet. But in 2 sentences, maybe 3 sentences for some of those, all those videos became what you saw. 1 to 3 sentences of text, and then that was the video you saw. All of the photos you saw, I generated by AI. I mean, I didn't generate them, I just wrote stuff in. So I forgot what I did for this one. This one was hilarious. I'm going to pull this up, because this was super fun to watch this whole thing happen. Just to give you an example of how silly this can get. This one, okay. So I asked the AI, I said, give me a photo of San Francisco at night. And it came up with this. And I said, okay, give me some fog and make the photo more realistic. It looked a little animated to me. So then I got this. All right, not bad. And I said, more fog and make it look less fake. And I got this, which to me looks more fake. And then you can see it gives a big description at the bottom of what it did. Then I said, okay, less hyperreal and zoom in so I can see the city more and reduce the fog. You went overboard. That's what I wrote. And then this speedometer appeared. I'm not sure why. And then I said, what did you do? That is a mess. We'll talk about being nice to your AI later. It apologizes to me. And then I said, why did you add the speedometer? Take it out. And then this is the image And then I said, okay, make it more speedometer then. If you're just going to do it, there we go. And I said, one last thing it needs a really obvious coffee shop. So, and then I was like, okay, last prompt, can you put the Golden Gate Bridge back in the photo? And that's where we ended up with the picture that you saw. AI is not really good with letters and numbers right now, which is its own funny thing. But I was like, wow, this is hilarious. So that was the process of getting to that, but we'll go into more of that later. Okay, so now we're going to get into some of the actual content of this whole thing. Oh, a couple things I also wanted to mention. Some of you picked up our very first Lent reading plan. Well, in the middle of all this, I was like, oh, we can have an AI do that. Yeah, AI thought we had some 8-week weeks between whenever it was in February and Lent. So then we had some 8-week weeks that we had to contend with. Audio mimicry is also a big thing in AI now, where you can teach an AI your voice, and then it spits out stuff. There was a recent thing, I don't know who it was. There was someone that really had no chance of becoming president, that was running against President Biden in Massachusetts, maybe, in the primary, and then sent out robocalls using the president's voice. And it was that was bad. Don't do that. Do not robocall people with the president's voice. So if you've heard that today, doesn't matter who the president is, don't do it. All right, so we're going to go to this really important book. We are going to talk a little bit today about the technology, but this is the church. It's not our job to teach you how to use computers. So I think it's really important to talk about, we'll start with the theology of the body. So here we have Genesis chapter 1, starting in verse 26. Then God said, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. They will rule the fish of the sea and the birds of the sky and the livestock and the whole earth and the creatures that crawl on the earth. So God created man in his own image. He created him in the image of God. He created them male and female. So the first question we have to ask ourselves for really the rest of our lives is, what does it mean to be made in the image of God? So there's two words. We see image and likeness. They're both different words in Hebrew, but we should really see them as parallel, referring to the exact same thing. And it's important to know, because of what we see in the rest of Scripture, that whatever this image of God that we have, and theologians have been debating this since this was written, this has not been marred by the fall. So we still have the image of God, even though we are now fallen, sinful creatures. I'm going to read. I got a whole bunch of other stuff to read today, too. All right. Let's see, here it is. This is from the Epistle to Diognetus. This is really old stuff. For God loved mankind, for whom he made the world, to whom he subjected all things, the things in the earth, to whom he gave reason, to whom he gave mind, to whom alone he allowed to look above to him, to whom he made in his own image, to whom he set his one and only Son, to whom he promised the kingdom in heaven and will give it to those who love him. Okay. There are elements of God-given rationality, relationality, dominion, and consummation in Christ's kingdom. While the imago might not be all of these things, it is certainly related to them. The imago Dei, the image of God. It helps if we distinguish the imago from its structural basis, its content, its implications. And as this man writes, is my contention that humans are created in the imago Dei in the sense of a royal status conferred upon God's people. So that's his contention, is that this image of God is this royal status that God gives to humans that nothing else in creation has or could possibly have. So then we have to talk about the significance of having a body. It's very, very important that we have a body and that we have a soul, and that those two things are linked together and cannot be separated. That is part of who we are. And even when Christ returns and renews all things, we will then have a body again. In C.S. Lewis's book, The Great Divorce, this was a very eye-opening moment for me when I read this book. People come, because a lot of times we think of heaven, we think of eternity as this spiritual realm that is invisible, and that we're all like floating ghosts of people, and we have 2,000 years of art and history or art and literature that have made that happen. But C.S. Lewis makes the point, some people come from hell to just sort of get on the edge of heaven and take a look, and everyone in heaven is like, you guys got to come here. It's pretty good. You got to leave the garbage that you're in, and you got to come here. And they said, well, why can't we come in now? And this is the response. It says, you have to be thickened up a bit. So the picture that C.S. Lewis is painting is that heaven is even a more real place than here. Because he says that even the grass blades are too stiff and too hard for your feet because heaven is more real than what we have here on earth. So even in eternity, we're still going to have bodies. We're still going to be linked together, our souls. So our souls will go on and then come back to this resurrected body, whatever that looks like. So having a body is really important, and we'll see why that is as we get into some of this stuff. So we also have an embodied faith. So right back here in Genesis, we read, the man and his wife heard the sound of the Lord God walking in the garden. A spirit doesn't make a sound walking in the garden. Then God inhabited a burning bush. So he was somehow embodying himself in that burning bush for a moment. He led his people by smoke and fire. Again, the Spirit of God embodying things that we can see, things that we can touch. God sent physical messengers out into the world. All of his prophets, they were people, humans that were going out into the world, that were embodying his message. Then God said, okay, those guys didn't work. I'm going to send my son, who is my word embodied, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to show you what it means, what I was talking about all of those years. We read in Philippians 2, he took on the likeness of a man. We read in Hebrews, pull this up really quick. If I can turn the page. There we go. The Son is the radiance of God's glory and the exact expression of his nature, sustaining all things by his powerful word. And after making purification for sins, he sat down at the right hand of his majesty on high. So, Emmanuel, God with us, Jesus coming to earth, he took on flesh, body and spirit together. And he also helped to show us, and we see this at the very beginning, when he says, let us make man in our own image, God says, and then he says, it is not right for man to be alone. So we are created then to be relational beings. We're meant to relate to other bodies, other people in the flesh. And then we're created in the image of God. And then we have Jesus Christ who comes and defines humanity for us. And this is what it means to be human. This is what it means to walk with God. This is what it means to love your neighbor. Oh, there we go. So again, I mentioned this earlier. The image of God is not lost or effaced by the fall. It's just ignored and misused. Like a prince or princess having behaved recklessly. The image is renewed in Christ and comes to its fullest expression when humans reign corporately over the new creation as royal sons and daughters of God. In Christ, we become truly and properly human. We begin to show our family likeness when we bear the image of Christ, our elder brother. Show our family likeness when we follow after Christ. Now, there is sort of a war on the body. And this began thousands of years ago. There was a movement called Gnosticism that said the body is evil, the spirit is good, so we're going to subject the body to things in order to sort of purify the spirit. And along with this technological revolution we've had in the last 100 years or so, there's sort of been a renewal of this thought. That the body is evil, the body is broken, and we need to just learn how to overcome it. And now, for the first time in history, we have the technology to overcome the body. Now, there is this conversation about the soul. Most of the world will say that the soul is sort of just whatever consciousness is. And it comes after the body. So the body is there, and then at some point, consciousness comes into the body. And if we can just preserve consciousness somehow, then we can live beyond the body. So again, computers have two main components. They have their hardware, which is the physical box that everything is in. Then they have their software, which is what you interact with on there. So the theory is that people are hardware, and that at some point, software, consciousness, is loaded onto it. You're going to hear me say this again and again and again. All of that stuff is completely wrong. And it's absolutely anti what this book says. But you have to understand, this is the worldview that's going behind a lot of these technological changes that are going on. There's also a group that, this is less a group I just thought was interesting, that they're animists. Some of you might know what an animist is. And that's things that everything has a soul. The tree has a soul. The rock has a soul. It does not. The animals have a soul. I'm sorry. Your dog does not have a soul. Just people have a soul. And I need like a table this long for everything I've got here. All right, so this is the ability to transfer the human mind to a computer rests on the assumption expressed most clearly by Nobel laureate Francis Crick. Some of you know Francis Crick. You and your joys and sorrows, this is Crick's words, your memories and your ambitions, your sense of personal identity and free will are in fact no more than the behavior of a vast assembly of nerve cells and their associated molecules. You are nothing but a pack of neurons. Crick posits that the self is the product of neuronal patterns and their functioning. We are, in essence, information, and information is always reducible to patterns of zeros and ones. What a sad existence is that? But again, if the body is simply a machine, if it's simply hardware, then that's the only place you have to go. Is that we're just a bunch of neurons. So of course, we can eventually figure out the technology to recreate those neurons and be able to basically create life. So it's important to know that technology, no matter what the technology is, it shapes us in various ways. Very easy example is, I'm standing here rather than down there because the lights are here and that video camera works better if I'm standing in the lights. So that has even changed how we might present this presentation, because we want to have it on video, that I have to be up here so the lights hit me better so the video looks better. This is an important thing. The medium, a lot of times, is the message. So a lot of times we say stuff like, well, it's the message that is important, not the medium. But the medium communicates something very significant. So that's important for us to remember as well. So trains and planes, for instance, that is a medium of transportation. And they changed how cities were built. So when the train came in, the cities then restructured how they were built based on the trains. Of course, in our country, roads, cars really have shaped our cities very well. But then the plane said, now I can get from here to here very quickly, and so that we would build hubs around the airports. There's hotels around airports. There's restaurants around airports. There's businesses and event centers around airports. Because that is where people go when they go from city to city. This one I thought was very interesting. But hear me out on this one. Central heating changed the function of the family. Prior to central heating being invented, unless you were a very wealthy family, you had one fireplace in your house. And the family would have to gather all together in that room to stay warm. But all of a sudden, anyone could afford to have heat in every room of their house. We take that for granted. But now kids that used to interact with their parents all day long now could go and have privacy in their room for the very first time. They could escape their family. Parents could escape their children. But that was not a thing you did unless you were super wealthy and had servants that were coming to stoke multiple fireplaces all over the house for you during the day. But then all of a sudden, we just add a simple thing like central heating. And that, which I'm not saying we should go back to fireplaces, but we had a simple thing like central heating, and all of a sudden, we have a change in the family. Medical equipment. And I read this, and I've seen this in my own life, and then my grandma's been in the hospital all week, so I was watching this happen all week. There is amazing, amazing medical equipment we have. We can do things with medicine that people 50 years ago would never have dreamed of, and I do not want us to go back to before this technology. But on the other side of it, doctors are seeing their patients less through the patient and more through a screen. And I watched as nurses came in to see my grandma this week, and they stood at their computer and they talked to her while watching their screen. And that's just normal now. And again, the information on the screen is stuff we never had before. The detail, the understanding, that we never had before. But it did transform the doctor-patient relationship. All right. Now we're going to go into a brief history of AI. This is your next. Oh, I want to mention too, we found that for a small percentage of people, this 97,000 doesn't work. So if that is you, your phone will spit back something you said, I can't do that or something, I don't know. You can email me, david.e@trinitymentor.com. So if you have questions as we go, this works for most people, but if you're one of those small percentage of people, david.e@trinitymentor.com. Okay. So artificial intelligence, the term artificial intelligence, was coined in 1956 by John McCarthy at a conference in Dartmouth, and he was trying to summarize a number of areas of research that included cybernetics, automata theory, which is basically building things that move on their own, and complex information processing. And he said every aspect of learning or any other feature of intelligence can in principle be so precisely described that a machine can be made to simulate it. So that was his theory, is that anything you can think of, a machine can do a good simulation of it. Then as the century went on, we had some other men, which you don't need to know all these names, I'm just going to go through them really quickly. David, I'm not going to say his last name, the pursuit of computer programs that are capable of reproducing some aspect of human cognition. So this is the changing definition of AI over the second half of the 20th century. Marvin Minsky said, it's the science of making machines do things that would require intelligence if done by men. Oh, back to my pages. There it is. This is 60 years ago, everyone would have agreed that playing chess or solving calculus problems signified intelligence. So this is what he says. It's an intelligent thing. Yet these tasks are easily done by today's computers, and we hardly consider our pocket calculators to be intelligent. The common joke among computer scientists is that intelligence is a sliding scale, and AI is anything a computer cannot yet do. Okay? If our minds manipulate stored symbols according to formal rules, then our thought patterns should be quite accessible. And AI researchers, they're using these formal systems to fake behaviors like playing chess, solving math problems, that we used to consider these to be the top of human intelligence. Like you were the hyper-intelligent if you could play chess. But is that really intelligence? Herbert Simon said, machines will be capable, this is in 1965, this is going to be a good chuckle for you. In 1965, Herbert Simon said, machines will be capable within 20 years, so by 85, of doing any work that a man can do. Everyone still working? Marvin Minsky in 1970 said, in 3 to 8 years, we will have a machine with the general intelligence of an average human being. I mean a machine that will be able to read Shakespeare, grease a car, play office politics, tell a joke, have a fight. At that point, the machine will educate itself with fantastic speed, and in a few months it will be at genius level, and a few months after that, its power will be incalculable. If you heard that sentence today, you'd be terrified. But we look back and say, okay, that was said in 1970. It's like, all right, maybe we're not moving quite as fast as we thought. So then this is the big question. What is intelligence? Well, as we see, the definition of intelligence keeps moving. As the machine gets smarter, we're like, well, it's not intelligent yet. Well, it's not intelligent yet. Well, it's not intelligent yet. Early AI was just playing chess. And a lot of AI development has been for the video game industry, to tell you the truth. Because people in video games want to interact with something that feels real. And so the AI was all for video games. So if the computer can play chess, does that make it intelligent? If the computer can drive a car, does that make it intelligent? In the 1950s, a man named Alan Turing, he's the guy that cracked the Enigma code and helped defeat the Nazis. He developed what's called the Turing test. And it was a series of questions that you could ask an entity to determine whether it was human or whether it was a machine. And machines now can beat the Turing test, but his hypothesis was that by the year 2000, the human interrogator's success rate would be below 70%. So two-thirds of the time or under, they would get it right. That's still up in the 90s, that the human can determine whether it's a machine or a person. So yes, the machine can beat it sometimes now, but it's still most of the time the human interrogator asking the questions of whatever entity it's talking to, they can tell. Like, okay, this is a real person. Nope, this is just a machine. So this suggests that intelligence is not what one knows or even how one knows it, but how one communicates intelligence. So after about the 1970s, significant advancements in AI basically stalled out for about 30 years. So in the 70s, 80s, 90s, you don't really hear a lot about AI things happening. And then all of a sudden, Deep Blue. Who remembers Deep Blue? Late 90s, this machine was developed simply to beat Garry Kasparov in chess. It had one purpose. Can it beat the most advanced chess player in the world? And it did. And Gary did not like that very much. But it's been decommissioned. Your cell phone's got more power in it than Deep Blue had. And then IBM said, okay, we can do better than that. Here's Watson. Now, what did Watson first do? Watson's doing a lot more things now, but what did Watson first do? And remember? Jeopardy. Watson had to come and play Jeopardy against Ken Jennings, the current now host of Jeopardy, but at that point, the greatest Jeopardy champion Jeopardy has ever known. And so Watson comes in, and so all the Deep Blue had to do was figure out where to move a chess piece. Watson had to listen to Alex Trebek say a Jeopardy clue, process what all those words were, search through his entire database of information, find the correct answer, and then reword that answer into a proper Jeopardy question. So that is a much more complex set of things, and to do it faster than a human could do it, which again, if you're competing against Ken Jennings, that's a pretty amazing thing to do. So now robots are a lot more ubiquitous today. AI is very ubiquitous today. That's one thing I want to talk about, is that all of these last year generate things of AI that we talk about. AI has been going on for a long time before that, and it's already well infiltrated in most of our lives. And that was one of the things, hopefully, that you're aware of when you leave today, is how much it's infiltrated into your life already. But we've got AI that vacuum our homes and our pools. We got AI that drives cars. And we have robots that pick packages. When you order from Amazon, a robot's one of the first things that touches your box before it gets sent out to you. Thankfully, a human is still delivering it, not a drone. All right, so I'm going to go into now the next 15 minutes or so, maybe 20, is going to be very technical. So this is information for people who want this information. If you don't want this information, check out. I'll let you know when to check back in. All right, so here's types of AI that people have named, I guess. So the first big category, which I'm going to talk about this big category for a long time, is weak AI. And weak AI is the simulation of human intelligence processes by machines. Weak AI. I'll just pull this slide up. Yeah, there it is, weak AI. So the first category under weak AI is ANI, which stands for Artificial Narrow Intelligence. So this is the stuff that you're probably pretty familiar with. Self-driving cars, Siri and Alexa, and saying, hey, Google, or anyone's phone go off? No. Streaming services use weak AI to help figure out what next movie you should watch. Chatbots, which we'll mess with in a few minutes. Social media algorithms. So an algorithm is just a computer program that's designed to direct information in a certain way. And so all of your social media is run by, most of the internet is run by algorithms that direct information in a certain way. So we'll talk about why that's important in a bit. Military they have AI drones and AI weapons. All of these new, if you see ChatGPT or Google Gemini or Bing AI, like all of those things are artificial narrow intelligence. A lot of the medical advances that we have were from AI. They have AI-aided surgery, AI-aided cancer screenings. This is one of the coolest things because AI can find cancer earlier and in smaller parts of MRIs than a human has ever been able to find. AI in development of medical treatments. In fact, they engaged AI to even develop the COVID treatments that they had. This AI is just made to get things done. Like we have a task, we want it done quickly, we want it done efficiently. But it cannot function, this is the important part, it cannot function without some sort of human interaction. And these are just simulations of human processes. But these are just simulations. There was a big thing in the news last year about the Google AI that one of their developers came out and said, it's gained sentience. It did not do that. It did not gain sentience. It is just a simulation of sentience and just a pretty darn good one, but it's going to be way better in 5 years, and then we can be more scared of it later. This is the only type of AI that we have ever had, and it's the only type of AI that we do still have. So this is very important to know too. The robots are not about to take over the world. If you're here because you were worried about that, don't be worried about it anymore. Now, weak AI is only as good as its programming. It's only as good as the information it has been trained on. And this is the thing about AI programs, AI algorithms, it's very interesting. And they call it the black box. So they teach this computer program to learn. And then everything it's learned goes into this, it's a metaphor, black box. But no one knows how to see into the black box. So no one knows what the computer is actually learning. They just know what information they're giving the computer. So there were some scientists that were trying to track an endangered species of wolf. And they were going to put some cameras out in the woods, but they were going to train the AI to then alert them when it sees those wolves. And so for months and months and months, they trained the AI on these pictures of wolves. And then when they went to do some other pictures, the AI was not picking out the wolves anymore. It all of a sudden stopped picking out the wolves, and they couldn't figure out what had happened until they realized that all they had done was train the AI to see snow and not wolves. But there was no way for them to know this information because they can't look into the black box. So part of AI research now is how can we look in the black box to see what the AI is learning? Really recently in the news, you may have heard of Google Gemini. Google Gemini is the newest iteration of Google's AI, and it's so broken, like hilariously broken, because again, the AI is only good as the programmers. And Google said, we want this to be as diverse and equitable as possible. And so they pumped all this stuff in there to get the new Google AI to be as diverse and equitable as possible. And all of a sudden you have black Nazis. And Ian and I tried for about a half an hour to come up with a very traditional 1850s Scandinavian family. And there were Indians they kept putting in there, and Native Americans somehow were in the 1850s Scandinavian. It was a mess. It was an absolute mess because they had a particular thing they were trying to point at, and it messed up the whole thing. And they've taken it down now, so you can't go play with it anymore. But I'm sure you could search the internet for Google Gemini and look at all the weird pictures that came up because they got really weird. But that's an important thing to know too, is that all of these technologies are only as good as who programs it. They're only going to be as right as the programmer. They're going to have gaps in knowledge. They're going to have biases. All right, so that's weak AI. Here's strong AI. This is the AI we do not have. Yes. This is the AI we do not have. This is theoretical AI. It could happen. Some people think these will never happen. So, yes, artificial general intelligence, AGI. Again, still very theoretical. And this type of AI would think and act like a human entirely on its own. So we go back to our movie picture at the beginning. C-3PO is a great example of an AGI. He can walk, he can talk, he can think, he can make decisions, he can act, although R2-D2 is really the decision maker in that relationship, let's be honest. But the AI in movies that we see, The Matrix, the Terminator, like all of those AI are these AGI, and nothing we have today is even remotely close to this kind of thing. Then there's also ASI, which is artificial superintelligence. So this is the idea that this AI would surpass the human brain in cognitive ability. And this probably is never going to happen. I say probably because you never know, but it's probably never going to happen. And part of the reason is, the more that people research the technology of making AI, the more then you have people simultaneously researching the human body. The brain is so complex, it's such an incredible creation that a human we can't do what God did. We just can't. We don't have the capacity to do what God did, which is create life. All right, here's some other vocabulary if you want to know some other things too. Large language models. So this is advanced AI models trained on lots of text that can in turn generate human text. So we'll mess with one of those in just a minute. Then there's machine learning. This is an AI that learns from data to make predictions or decisions without explicit instructions. So your phone has a lot of machine learning in it now. When I get into my car and I plug my phone in and the CarPlay screen comes up, my phone has traveled with me enough that it makes now an educated guess about where I'm going. Some of you have seen this on your car too. So if I'm leaving this building at a certain time, my car goes, oh, you're going home. Lately, my car's been going, plug it in and going, like, oh, you're going to Hillcrest, aren't you? Yes, I'm going to Hillcrest again, car. Thank you. And it even knows once a week I pick my son up from school, Friday afternoons. I get in my car Friday afternoons, plug my phone in, and it says, oh, you're going to get your son from school. That's all machine learning. So the machine has just learned some information about you. That was Ron Swanson throwing his computer into the dumpster at the beginning. It's learning information. All right, then we have natural language processing. So this is AI that helps computers understand and work with human languages, either written or spoken. So this is why when you talk to Siri or you talk to Alexa, that you can almost have like a kind of a conversation, because now this AI has learned how to interact with human language. Then deep neural networks. These are advanced AI networks patterned after the human brain that can now learn and understand patterns. This is the part that would have to get hyper complex for that super intelligence to happen. And again, I'm not going to even try to explain to you what's necessary because you don't care. Then generative adversarial networks. This is the reason that you're here. This is those pictures we saw and those videos we saw. This is an AI technique for combining real data to create realistic synthetic images. And this is what they call multimodal AI, so different modes together. So it can process, understand, and generate outputs from more than one type of data. And then intelligence augmentation. So these are AI tools specifically that augment human abilities. But we've had things that augment our abilities a long time. One of them we call the hammer. It takes your forearm and augments your ability to put a nail into a board. A car augments your feet, allowing your body to move quicker from place to place. Telescopes and microscopes augment our eyes. So these are not, these are not weird things in the developments of technology. They're just sort of weird things to us because they're newer. All right, let me jump back over to my chat friend here and pull up that screen. I need a volunteer. Who wants to be brave? Oh, yeah, Crystal can be brave. All right. Come on, gotta come up here. Sorry, I didn't say those words.
Shoes off.
Oh, well, that's fine. You can lift your shoes off.
Nope.
All right. So stand there, face everybody. We're going to describe Crystal to the machine here. So what are some...
Machine doesn't know my insecurities, right?
does not.
Oh, good.
Okay. So we're going to do a young lady.
Now we're lying.
Well, it's okay. Young lady. We'll start there. Let's see. 5'9", 5'10"?
Fine.
About 5'9". All right. What other descriptions can we have? Blonde hair. Glasses. Wait. Let's see. We got clear. Let's sort of thin-rimmed glasses. We're gonna go with thin-rimmed glasses. Jeans. I heard wearing jeans and a t-shirt. Oh, t-shirt. Oh. Can't spell shirt. There we go. She has round earrings. Oh, yep. Lipstick.
Scripted, I found the better. For sure.
And let's see. Oh, yep, blue eyes.
Messy bun in her hair.
Blue eyes. She has fair skin and rosy cheeks. Boy, my typing is really bad. And let's see. Oh, yeah. Her hands are in her pockets. We'll start with that. And then we'll give ChatGPT just a moment here to come up with something.
Are you using the image generator for it?
That's a different app, but it's...
I've been doing it.
Yeah, this is still gonna do an image for it. So it's a lot of computer power that does this. So that's why it takes a minute. But then I accidentally deleted my favorite one, which was doing the Logans the other day. That one was super fun. So
That's seriously what I looked like when I was 16, though.
that is like a
A little less vivacious.
Barbie pencil neck going on there.
That's what I looked like when I was
Oh, I forgot.
children.
Oh, give her a messy bun. Sorry, I forgot that part. A messy one. Those were her words. Those were her words.
That's how to do full body. I like doing this and then make her do it in the style of Chibi, so I look like a cartoon.
And now we're turned sideways. That's a messy bun. Okay.
Why do I have overalls up?
Yeah, you have a pen in your pocket. Okay. All right. Now, okay, well, great. Now, make her in the style of Pixar,
There we go.
because that makes it really fun.
Ooh, what princess am I gonna
Let's see if she's still going to be like this, or if we're going to straighten her up. I don't know why it randomly does stuff like this, but that makes it funny.
So isn't this weird? This is the most irritating part. I can tell it to make amazing things, but I can't wait 5 seconds for it to build it. I paid $20 a month for this, man. You better speed up.
And they're still losing money at $20 a month per person. And look, there's 2 of them.
Look at that snatched waist.
All right, thank
Like
you.
the mom
That
jeans.
was,
It did really well with the mom.
yeah, those are great genes. So there you go. The other day, Kathy asked me to generate some images for Lionheart, some beaver in a wardrobe things. I think this was our favorite one that came up with it. Okay, here's my Norwegian-style village. This is what we watched a picture of earlier. It did this first, and I said, no, I didn't like that. And then I wanted this. Then I said, how about in Baroque style? I asked for Baroque style, and that's the picture we saw there at the beginning. Oh yeah, then I had to make up some fictional facts about the world. This was really funny. Then I asked questions about how it came up. Oh yeah, this was an interesting conversation. I won't read the facts, but it said, at the end of it, it said, these facts are entirely a product of imagination and hold no truth in the real world. To which I asked, whose imagination? Thought that was a legitimate question. It said, they're my imagination created in response to your request for entirely generated unrelated facts. Now, as an AI, I generate content based on the instructions given to me, combining elements from my training data in novel ways to create new fictional scenarios of information. So I said, so you have the ability to imagine things? This is me having a conversation. And then it said, it might have implied more creativity or consciousness than I possess. Like, don't worry, I'm not alive. So it's like, I don't imagine. And then I asked for more about the process, and I learned about all of this stuff, which I won't go into because most of you don't care. If you want to know later, I'll tell you later. But anyway, here's our blonde lady portrait. It wasn't as cool as Pixar. The funny thing was, when I had Logan the other day, and it took me longer than this to get a really good picture of her. Then I said, just give her a good-looking husband, good-looking bearded husband with the same name, because they have the same name. And that was all the description I gave for Logan, and it looks just like him. But I accidentally deleted that chat, so I can't show you that one, and I'm very sad. You can resend it to me later. But hang on, let me pull this back up. It was such a good one, and I deleted it. I'm sad for me. Okay. So the last thing I'll say in this section is there's a company called NVIDIA. You are now 1 year too late in investing in NVIDIA stock. I'm sorry. So NVIDIA is a computer graphics chip processing company that started in the mid-90s. And again, just like a lot of this stuff, they started for video games. We're going to make video games great. So only if you were the uber nerd did you know who NVIDIA was, and you were buying their products. And I was buying their products. A lot of you still have their products in your devices, you just don't know about it. And then something happened about 15 years ago, 10 years ago. They discovered that these NVIDIA chips are really, really good at mining cryptocurrency. And they would build these rigs that were just made to get Bitcoin into your life or other cryptocurrencies into your life. And the things were like power drains. You had to have a dedicated circuit just for this machine, just crazy amounts of power. But people were putting them in their basements. And so then it was harder to get NVIDIA chips because cryptocurrency, and they were more expensive because of cryptocurrency. Well, now people have all of a sudden discovered that NVIDIA GPU chips are really good at processing AI stuff. And NVIDIA went from a small but profitable company to now the third largest company by market cap in the United States, behind Microsoft and Apple. All within the last year, by the way. So yeah, I think 1,300% they went up in the last year, something crazy. So like I said, you missed out your opportunity to invest in NVIDIA. Okay, go take a break. This has been a lot. Go take a break. don't they look amazing? I mean, isn't that great? All right, well, we'll start to get ready. Yeah, so this is, I knew that we had the picture around still, but I was kind of sad. I wanted to show you the process at which I used to get to the picture, but this is the picture. I'm starting to wonder if AI just thinks all women have tiny necks. Because, I mean, that's like, but yeah, so again, this was about 5 or 7 minutes messing around with it to get Mrs. Logan, and then one sentence that wasn't even very descriptive to get Mr. Logan.
The other thought would be is you said basically in the black box, did you basically tell it make her look like a male Logan?
No, all I said was give him a beard and make him good looking, and he has the same name. That's all I said was he had the same name. That's what they come up with. So there you go. There you go. All right, so let's talk about some of the benefits of AI. Benefits of AI. Because again, some of you are probably here because you're worried about what's happening in the world. And don't worry, I'll give you plenty of more reason to worry in just a little bit. But for the moment, we're talking about some of the things that are actually being used for good. All right, so there's 3 characteristics of an AI program that make it really beneficial for us to be using for a lot of different things. First, AI is capable of a level of precision and timing that humans just can't do. Like, AI is fast, AI is precise. It's not always right, but it's at least still fast and precise. Also, computers can sift through large amounts of data and find patterns in it really quickly. So again, this is important. We're talking about things like cancer screenings. And AI can also be used to personalize various services and experiences. That was the video I showed you at the beginning. You guys have all seen those ads. David, how would you like to buy this thing? Like, why do you know my name? That's what the AI does. So again, let's talk about some very simple, sort of base level AI that we've been interacting with for a bit. Siri, Alexa, and Hey Google. Who uses Siri or Alexa or have like a Google thing in their house? Anybody? Probably a lot of you do. Yep. And they're nice. You know, my grandma has got Alexas in all throughout her whole house. And so everywhere she goes, she can talk to Alexa. She can't see very well, so it's nice for her just to be able to get information quickly that way. You know, if you live in a big house, you can get little Alexas all over your house, and you can communicate with the rest of the house. It's like a built-in house intercom, too. A lot of nice things can happen that way. So you get these devices, which are getting more and more complex all the time, and they're always listening. They can give you answers to basic questions. They work as a good virtual assistant. My friend Siri helps me remember more. Actually, Siri remembers more things for me than I will remember. So I frequently ask Siri, say, hey, on this day, remind me about this thing. And then I I completely forgot about that. Siri did not. You can send texts. Like a lot of us now, if you have this stuff in your car, your phone connects to your car, you can send and receive text while driving without looking at your phone, which is really nice. Because that would be dangerous to look at your phone while you're driving. Don't do that. Autocorrect. Autocorrect is a machine learning AI. So as much as we fight our autocorrect, have you ever tried not using it? We're so used to having it that you turn it off, you're like, whoa, I'm a really bad typer. It's bad. Of course, what we looked at earlier, these generative AI programs. I don't know what I just inhaled. Hang on. Okay, better. Chatbots, you can have a whole conversation, which I did a few times with that ChatGPT just to like get information. All of those are just, I call them friendly AI. Wow. Don't tell Ian. Call them friendly AI. Farming, AI, they use AI in farming now. And now they can use 90% less pesticides because they can target it better. That means you're eating 90% less pesticides. So that saves them money, but it also gives us less chemical exposure. A friend of mine works for John Deere, and I said, I love learning about the AI that you guys do, that you guys have. She's like, oh yeah, we have great AI. I said, yeah, pesticides and stuff. She's like, oh, I thought you just meant the thing that stopped me from sending snarky emails. Because apparently at John Deere, they've got things that like scan your emails and say, do you really want to say this way? We don't have those here. So if you get a snarky email from me, that was just me. It can also detect diseases in the plants, soil problems, the best time to harvest. It's like all of these things, the amount of data we've put into these things, it's very, very helpful. I mentioned earlier medicine. AI has been used to help develop medicines and vaccines. It can read MRI data. Elon Musk is developing this thing called Neuralink. We won't talk about the weird stuff of Neuralink, but one of the cool things that could potentially come out of Neuralink is someone who is physically disabled, that this can now connect to their brain and then connect to some sort of robotic prosthetic. And a person who cannot walk and now has this robot legs, basically, and then they can walk pretty much with as much brain power as it takes us to walk, potentially. So that could be a really good thing in the future. I put this is like a benefit, but it also, this one is in both categories of the benefit and the dangers, is law enforcement and military. They have AI chatbots, this is really cool, that are going in and fighting against like sex trafficking and child trafficking. And they're getting into these forums and these weird dark places of the internet, and they're finding these perpetrators and setting them up for stings and traps and stuff. As opposed to having a real person in there doing that, which is what the FBI has been doing for a while. These chatbots are now going in there and assessing information, and they're getting the bad guys. They've also found ways to use public cameras to find kidnapped victims. So that's a great thing, but also they're using public cameras. Just want to say those words. They've got AI drones that are security around military bases. So you don't have to have a sleepy human at 2 a.m. monitoring the security around the base. They still do have humans, don't worry, because that would be stupid at this point. But they've got these AI drones now that can alert humans to potential infiltration. Because before that, their job was just to sit there and stare at a screen all night long. And how many movies have you seen where someone distracts the screen watcher in order to get past the camera? Can't distract the AI drone. Eventually runs out of batteries, but the next drone comes up with the full battery. In industry, Amazon has their robot warehouse workers that go ahead and pick stuff. If you've been to Menards recently, you've probably seen their robot floor cleaner. Drives around there, you're like, whoa, hey, that floor's clean. And then AI programs that optimize people and optimize schedules. AI is to sort through financial data and look for problems or wasteful spending. This is a huge thing. Most of the developments in AI are in the business world right now. So a lot of these things that are going on right now are just to help make business run better. And a lot of you, depending on your industry, are probably interacting with some form of AI. Diane Steele, some of you know Diane, she was just telling me in the hallway that her team helped develop an AI in 1988 to write out these material safety data sheets. And it was very cool. I was like, 88? So that was all the way in 88? Some of you weren't around yet in 88? That was very cool. So then this, I thought I would just throw this one in here because this is really important too. AI has the potential to change how we do ministry. I found 2 different groups, I suppose, that have already used AI to translate at least parts of the Bible. Now, my response to them is, why are you using your powers for evil and not for good? So imagine what I'm about to give you some examples of AI being used to translate the Bible. So imagine this in the hands of someone like Wycliffe, who translates Bibles for a living, versus whoever these crazy people are. So the first is the Gen Z Bible. Here was the angel visiting Mary in Gen Z. Mary was a pick-me girl for God and was simping for him in prayer. I don't have a good example of it. Anyway, an angel came and said, God wants you to be the mother of the main character, which is totally Gen Z talk. And then later on, Jesus goes around and he's passing the vibe check everywhere he goes. So if you speak Gen Z, all of that would make sense to you. If you don't, then you're probably going, what? And then there were these people. What these people were thinking, I still have no idea. I will not tell you what Bible translation this is. I will just read it for you using the proper voice inflection. This is chapter 1 of Isaiah. 'Twas Isaiah, son of Amos, who saw a vision about Judah and Jerusalem during the days when Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah was king of Judah. Hark, ye heavens overhead, and lend ye an ear, O earth below. For the Lord himself has spoken, and fostered and raised me children, and yet they turn their backs on me. An ox knoweth his captain, and the donkey its master abode. But Israel don't know a thing about me, and people don't give him a toad. Somebody did the Pirate Bible. Again, you can buy the Pirate Bible. It's like $30. You can buy the Gen Z Bible too. Why? I do not know. But the point is, if that can be done, and as quickly as it is, as it's been accomplished, imagine putting that in the hands of people who are really using it for good. There are still hundreds of languages in this world that do not have the Bible in their language yet. People groups don't have the Bible in their language yet. And so now imagine harnessing these kind of powers in order to create it faster and easier and get people reading scriptures that have never been able to read the Bible before, including pirates. You can have AI generate personalized reading plans that sometimes are right, and prayer prompts. Let's see, next page. These AI tools, again, they're trained on so much information. What was the question about Jesus' baptism the other day? So Paul preached on the baptism of Christ. Ian went in and asked a few questions about it, because there's various views about why Jesus would have been baptized, and you heard some of them during Paul's sermon a few weeks ago. But Ian said, well, what does the world of AI have to say? And it spit out a whole bunch of information. The nice thing is, most of these systems that are running now, they give you citations at the bottom of these when they pump out information for you. So if you like the answer or you want to find more information, you can go on these links. You can see where did it get the information from, and you can begin to do some more research on your own. So you can ask these AI bots that are all over the internet now really questions about theology, questions about books of the Bible, questions about faith, and it has generally, I've thought, helpful answers. And then you can take that and go in the right direction. But again, be mindful that it's only as good as the information it got. So, and a lot of them even tell you, don't trust me, I don't necessarily know what I'm talking about. That's a good warning. You can have it do book summaries for you. So if you say to the AI, give me 1,000-word summary of Pride and Prejudice, it'll do it. And then you don't have to read the book. Don't use it for cheating in school, though. Don't do that. Most of you aren't in school anymore. If you lead a Bible study, you could again ask questions to the AI about the passage of a scripture that you're going to be studying. I saw a really good example of a man a month or two ago, and he was talking about to use AI as sort of a brainstorming tool and to use it, just go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth with some of these chatbots, and it can be really helpful. Okay, if you are a generally nervous person, you should probably leave. All right, let's talk about the warnings of AI. Okay, as we begin, let me reiterate what I said earlier. Sentience, in other words, these machines gaining a life on their own, is not something we have to worry about today. Probably not even this decade. Likely not even this century. But maybe your great-grandkids will have to worry about that, but not us. So here's the real issues. All right, first is putting our trust in that which is not trustworthy. This is probably the largest concern we should have for going forward for the AI, for the foreseeable future. It will be very easy to put our trust in this machine to do things for us. We build machines all the time, and we trust the machine is going to work right. Not just in AI, just in the world in general. We have machines that do all sorts of things. We have a lot of trust in our car to move until it doesn't, right? So, in this case, we could be putting a lot of trust into a machine that is just plain wrong. And it is a machine, so just keep thinking about that. This is just a machine. So it might be wrong. The information might be biased based on the programmer. Now, just a little bit in Google's defense, because what they did was super ridiculous, but a little bit in Google's defense, most of these AI programs have been very biased in their creation as far as dealing with when it deals with people. And again, part of it is they've been trained on very narrow sets of data. And so when all you have is a bunch of 20 to 35-year-old white men that are being trained on all the data, all of the information it outputs applies to 20 to 35-year-old white men. And so Google was like, we're going to combat that. And they went way too far. But that's caused a lot of problems in some of the systems, how this has worked over the past couple of years. But the question that we have to ask ourselves, and again, this is the question I'm going to revisit a number of times for the rest of our time together, is will we inadvertently sell our souls to our new AI overlords? Even though they're not asking us to. Because again, it's not like some of these movies we talked about where the AI is coming to rule everything. But we're just, again, our level of dependence on these machines can get to the point where we've sort of sold our soul to them and lost ourselves in the process. The world of academia is really struggling to figure this whole thing out. A lot of students are using AI to generate papers and to find answers to homework and a lot of different things that are out there. So if you're a parent or a grandparent and you're helping kids with homework, keep them away from all of these things or show them how to use them as tools to be helpful, not tools to cheat. Google, well, I'll get to this in a little bit. Come back. All right, so another thing, AI will cause the loss of jobs. It's going to cause people to lose jobs. Were you just elbowing him about cheating with AI? Was that what that was? Were you saying, don't do that? Is that what you were just saying? It can be so helpful. So, and especially as we begin to develop robots to do a lot of this stuff for us, like the Amazon workers, we still need people. There's still the person that comes and delivers it to your house. The drones have not happened yet. But the Amazon worker doesn't need to come into the warehouse anymore. A robot goes, as soon as you push buy on your Amazon cart, a robot goes, I got this, picks it off the shelf, brings it over, and then someone puts it in a box, seals it up, and addresses it and stuff. However, here's my big however. So jobs will be lost because of the developments in AI. However, every single time a new technology has come out, people have lost jobs. And then more jobs were created because of that technology. That will happen also. So You don't need to be worried. Some of you are retired, so you don't have to care about this anymore. But you don't need to be worried about your job being gone tomorrow. But you might need some new skills in the future. Artists, I think right now are one of the biggest places to be concerned. And if you were following the media over the last 6 or 7 months, there was a big writer's strike in Hollywood last summer. And this had a lot to do with it, because they saw the writing on the wall, and they said, even though the writing for the shows and the movies will not be as good with a robot doing it than with me, I cost a lot of money to hire, and that machine costs very little money to hire. So what's to prevent this studio from firing me and having a computer start writing their shows? Now, I think that they would find quickly that the computers are not very good at doing it. But if the studios are now saving millions and millions of dollars, they might not care. And as we'll talk about later, a lot of this is just being driven by money. So we saw what we can do with photos and videos a minute ago. So text, photos, videos, a lot of things like that. All right, AI surveillance technology. This is another thing we have to talk about too. It is scarier, and it could be scary. It's scary, and it could be scarier. China, so obviously they have totalitarian ideals that thankfully we do not have in this country. But China has created advanced facial tracking applications. They track the Uyghur people. They track potential dissenters. I'm assuming that Christians are involved in some of those tracking. And then, so they have this powerful technology they use all the time, especially in the big cities, that we're not developing here. And they're now selling it to other countries that want to have totalitarian states. Other countries are coming to them, smaller countries that want to have this totalitarian dictatorship, and they come to China and say, hey, can we buy that? China goes, yeah, of course, you can give us money. And they're selling that. I saw in Canada, they had like facial recognition cameras on vending machines. I don't know why you would do that. It was at a college, the students got really upset about it, and then the vending machines disappeared. But why were there cameras on vending machines? Just asking questions. All right, oh yeah, so Google, I'm gonna go back to an earlier point. Just about us giving too much up to the technology. In a lot of ways, Google itself, just before it sort of had a level of AI before, but Google has made us dumber. We don't have to know information anymore. We just have to know that Google knows the information, and we go find it. Paul mentioned at the beginning that I deal with a lot of the technology around here, which is true. And everyone's like, David, you're so good at technology. I'm like, no, I'm just really good at Googling how to fix the technology. There's a big difference there. If you're in IT, you know what I'm talking about. That's how you fix things. So all of these developments in AI are just going to make this whole thing worse. So now instead of just having easy Google knowledge, we can now get even more in-depth and more complex answers to our questions through AI. In fact, programmers, a lot of times, they know that they can go to this ChatGPT that I was working on earlier, and they can ask for code on how to do something, and it spits out pretty clean code. And they can just copy and paste that into their project, and then woo, all good. So in some ways, again, anyone seen the movie WALL-E? I didn't put a picture of WALL-E up there. Great movie, if you want to go see WALL-E. If you ever want to cry over a robot, watch WALL-E or that Short Circuit movie. But in the movie WALL-E, the whole idea is that we've created these machines that so take care of our every need that people no longer have to do anything. And then the part of the point of the movie is that humans have damaged the planet so much that we get off the planet, and then we're going to either wait in space till the Earth heals and then go land there, or find somewhere else. But on the spaceship they're all on, an AI that looks a lot like Hal is sort of running the whole thing. But people do not work at all. In fact, they've gotten to the point they don't even move. So everyone has their own personal pod that they float around in. Everyone is quite overweight and cannot even walk because they don't walk anymore. Imagine not walking. Being able to walk and not walking. That's just. And each person has their own personal screen. Each person has whatever food they want. All of it is just right for them. And the computers just do everything for them. And the people have lost the ability to do people things. So that's not going to happen tomorrow either. But that is one of the things we need to think about, is that the more that we allow the machines to do things for us, the less things we will be doing. It's also just too easy to find stuff now. I'm not that old, but still growing up, it was. Anyone else's parents, you say, Mom, how do you spell this word? Or Dad, how do you spell this word? And what would be the answer? Look it up in the dictionary. Or my dad would just say Dictionary. And that was the answer. Now you're just like, eventually autocorrect will figure out what word I want. Like, that's what we've gotten to, right? That's where we've moved from. Or if you wanted to know information, you had to go to the encyclopedia and read about it. Some of you are going, what is an encyclopedia? You had to go to encyclopedia to read about it, but if your encyclopedia was 10 years old, it was out of date, and you had to go to the library to get their encyclopedia because they at least got new ones all the time. So also, AI has the potential to interfere or even replace human relationships. This is problematic. Some people already are turning to these AI chatbots just to have conversation with. Because an AI chatbot, they're trained to be really kind. They're trained to be polite and friendly. They're not going to judge you. They're not. It's just the truth. That's how they're built. People, we're judgy. But not ChatGPT. It understands me. Some of you may have seen the show Big Bang Theory that was on a few years ago. There's this really funny episode, this character named Raj. He decides he's in love with Siri. And he wants to try to find Siri, the real person that's behind the voice. And so he has, and Siri wasn't even anything at this point. Like, Siri does a lot more stuff now. And so he goes to some place and he finds Siri, and it's this robotic woman in a room that's constantly walking around to different things and answering questions. And he doesn't get any deeper interaction from this actress playing Siri as he was getting from the machine Siri, and he was very sad and walked away. I found this very interesting article. I just can't believe this. This guy used ChatGPT, the program we were just using to make the pictures a little bit ago. He trained it to talk to people. He talked to 5,239 different women on Tinder, which is a dating app if you don't know what Tinder is, and then eventually found his wife. So it would talk to these women, and it was trained to search through a bunch of data sets, and if the woman answered a certain way, then it kept going down and down and down and down. He's like, oh, this one. So then he eventually came on, told her, you've been talking to a bot this whole time, but the bot was trained to talk like me, and now you're talking to real me, and we should go on a date. And they went on a date, and they got married. 5,239 women. Like, that's our world, guys. So in that case, he was using it to find a relationship, but he sort of also, and some guys, hear me out on this one. He skipped the hard part. Guy's kind of smart. No. But really, that is the hard part. That's the hard part. The meeting and understanding the woman. But he was just getting information back. And he's like, oh, I think we found this one. I think I found the one. That's just, they used to have matchmakers, so he just used an AI matchmaker is pretty much what it is. Instead of having someone else go out and find you a wife. We're judgy people. I want to make many judgments right now, but I will hold them back. All right. There's a journalist named Jacob Ward. He's worked for a number of different organizations. I believe he's with NBC right now. He recently wrote a book called The Loop. And in that book, he talks about two systems that humans possess. System one is our snap judgment system. So these are decisions that we make without any conscious energy. Like this, going up and down stairs. I'm not thinking to myself, step, 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 My body just does that. When you take a drink, you don't think about all of those things. You just do it. Most of what we do during the day works on system 1. Some of you have, anyone else had the experience, I'm sure it's not just me, that you drive somewhere and you're like, whoa, how did I get here? Yeah, that's because system 1 engaged in your commute. And so the vast majority of our actions happen on system 1. System 2 is the careful, creative, rational decisions. They take time and energy to process. So most of your work is in system 2. So you have to think about this report that you're writing up. You have to think about the Excel spreadsheet. You have to think about the artwork that you're designing. You have to think about making dinner. You have to think about a lot of these different activities. And his fear, and what he calls the loop, is that we're going to start giving more and more of our system 2 over to these machines. And that eventually, we will not make any more rational or creative decisions. But we will let the mighty algorithm, again, this program designed to figure out information, that we will let this mighty algorithm make the decisions for us. And it's very, even now, it's very, like one of my chats that I didn't show you up on there that was up there was, what should I have for dinner? And it gave me a lot of, I said I wanted potatoes. I thought I had potatoes. Tell me something to make with potatoes. And it gave me 6 or 7 options. So then the question is, at what level does it become helpful, and what level does it replace human processes that we should be doing? And so this is the whole idea that we need to be really leery of and aware of as we move forward. Social media, this is how it works. It knows you and it feeds you the stuff that makes you stay on it. All right, get a little strange here for a minute. I'm going to recommend some books to you pretty soon, but this comes from one of those books called Digital Liturgies. And he makes the case that this is not just AI, which a lot of it is run by AI, that the entire internet is pornographically shaped. Now, he's not saying everything on the internet is pornography, but he's saying that the things that make pornography what they are shape the entire internet. And here are those 3 things that he says. The first is novelty. There's always something new, and there is content for anything you can possibly think of, which is true. The web is just an endless novelty machine fueled by these artificial intelligence-driven algorithms. And sort of in the vein of C.S. Lewis, who says that, it's a very famous quote he has about, we'd rather make mud pies in an alley than a vacation at the sea. That the problem is, our desires have just become too weak. And so we just sit there and we scroll on to the next thing. And you know, Facebook, so we know this because of just having a Facebook account here at the church that we put stuff on. Facebook knows how long you look at everything you look at it. And the same goes for TikTok and Twitter and all the other ones, Instagram. The length of time that you spend looking at something is registered in your Facebook, under your account for Facebook. And it's in seconds, sometimes even in milliseconds. And they know, wow, he spent 8 seconds looking at this, but normally he only spends 2. That is something we're going to give him more of. And they throw at you more stuff. That's all about novelty. Right related to that is consumption. Everything on the internet is made to be consumed. Again, that's the whole purpose of pornography, is to consume it. Everything on the internet is made to be consumed. Everything on the web, we call it all content. There's even content now where you can go watch somebody play a video game. You're not playing the video game, you're just watching someone play a video game. Or perhaps you're watching someone react to someone playing a video game. Because reaction videos are really big. That's a really big thing. You can watch We watched a reaction video the other day because it was funny. 'Cause it's funny to watch people react to stuff. So you can watch someone react to someone else playing a video game. So all of this is about the commodification of basic human life. I mean, how much of YouTube or Facebook or Instagram is just full of normal human life? And we've just commodified it. We've said, oh, we can make money if I make a video of me doing X. And most of it is fine to have. But we've now commodified that and said, okay, this person's going to ride in a car with a friend, and they're going to chat. And we can make money off of that. Why not make money off of that? And then the third is isolation. The internet is best consumed as a solitary individual. Yeah, sometimes we share stuff with our friends. There were 3 steps the internet took in the world. The first was in the lab. When the internet was in its infancy, in the 80s, early 90s, you had to be in a place that had the internet. Whether it was an actual lab of people developing it, or it was a computer lab at a school or a library, but you had to go to where the internet was available. And then, this is the internet I grew up with, which was the internet in the living room. So you probably only had one computer, if you had any computer in your house. You probably only had one. And my parents wisely put it right in the middle of the whole house. Because even though the internet was not what it is today, they knew there was stuff on there they didn't want their kids to see. And if the internet was right where everybody else always was, there was a lesser chance of us getting into trouble on it. So it moved from the lab to the living room to the pocket. And now, the internet is right here. And everywhere we go, we carry on little internet devices. That's why they call it an internet phone, iPhone. We carry on the internet with us everywhere we go. And it follows us. It follows us into our bedrooms. It follows a lot of people into the bathroom. It follows us to, and we don't know how to sit still anymore. Again, I've been at the hospital a lot this week with my grandmother. Everywhere I go, people are just on their phone. I watched yesterday, she was in surgery last night, and I was watching people walking past, and just everyone was walking past like this. Everyone, doctors, nurses, people that were visiting the hospital, everyone just walking past. Everything that comes with the internet is right available to us. For good and for bad, right? For good and for bad. He also says this, internet pornography is not so much an issue of lust, but an issue of power. And just like the internet, we have the power to consume anything we want, anything we can dream of, and when we're finished with it, we just go on to the next thing. Which again is the problem of the internet. That's why we have to keep having new content all the time, because once that piece of content has been consumed, nobody wants to consume it anymore. So if your job is a YouTuber or a social media influencer, those are jobs, you have to be constantly making new things because that thing you made 2 months ago, no one cares about anymore. They've seen it, they moved on. They need something else. You have to keep making new things. But this also means that pretty soon, actors won't be necessary for all of this stuff. What we've seen. A simple text prompt will produce the next thing we can possibly imagine. And so then the internet now, so many things can be just imagined and developed without even having a real person behind it. And all those things can be commodified. In the pornography realm, it's getting really weird out there with all of these AI developments. There's a robot brothel in Texas. It's a real thing. Japan is just a gross country in general. Like, I love Japan. But when it comes to like pornography and sex things, they're just off the deep end. And the things that they have going on there, the robots they're developing for people to use, is just icky. We're just going to go with icky. And all of these things are being powered by AI and advances in robotics. And that is the world we're living in now. Okay, let's talk about, real quick, some future developments, and then we'll go to our Christian response to everything, and hopefully, I have time for some questions really quick. All right, so the metaverse. The metaverse is a world populated by humans and AI that some people, Mark Zuckerberg, this is his big dream. He's the head of Facebook. This is his big dream to create the metaverse, a place where human and AI can interact and live, and we can just move there. We don't have to live in this world anymore. We can make our new world for ourselves, and we can just live in this new metaverse. I don't want to live in a digital world. Anyone was a Star Trek Next Generation person back in the day? Nobody? A few people. Come on, Tom, I know you watched it. There you go. So they had this thing called the holodeck, the Next Generation. And you could go in there and you could type in a few things, say a few prompts, and then they could enter a world. So part of me is like, that would be really cool. But now part of me is seeing the reality of what that would mean. And I'm like, I don't know if we want that. But that's what they're trying to develop, some sort of virtual world that you can go in and live in and exist. And all of these new VR helmets they're coming out with are to help do that. AI robots becoming servants. That's coming soon. In some places, that's sort of already happening. Robots to cook and clean and do laundry. Huh? Right? Like the Jetsons. Yes, exactly. So AI robots doing jobs humans don't want to do. And this is where AI and worldview begin to clash, at least for us. There's a group of people that call themselves transhumanists, and they are seeing all of these developments and going, finally, everything we wanted is coming true. And I'm going, you guys need to back off. So they're thinking they want to create the next evolution of humanity through technology. And part of this movement is just to supplement the human body. So, and it's not necessarily just the prostheses that we have now, although those are going to continue to get more and more advanced, and it's really cool to see some of the ways that a person who maybe lost their hand or lost their arm is now getting an arm that can even grab something now, and they can control. But part of the movement is to move beyond the body completely. Again, this goes back to that whole, are we software or are we hardware, or are we both body and soul together, inseparable, while we're here on Earth? In 1998, this is the Transhumanist Declaration. Humanity stands to be profoundly affected by science and technology in the future. We envision the possibility of broadening human potential by overcoming aging, cognitive shortcomings, involuntary suffering, and confinement to the planet Earth. Do you feel confined to your planet? Like, I don't know what I don't feel confined to my planet, but maybe some people do. AI pioneer Ray Kurzweil predicted the future of what he calls it the singularity. And that is when human consciousness and technology merge and form a new era of human existence. I don't know what that means. I think we need to be watching out for that kind of thing to be happening. Because I think it begins to change who we are as humans. All right, so let's respond to some of this stuff. So the first thing we need to do is we need to see the worldviews I actually wrote, behind the technology and know how they function. So first off, technology is not inherently evil by itself. It can be used for either good or evil. Also, AI is probably not the mark of the beast. We've had a lot of red herrings in that world so far. Credit cards turn out they're not the mark of the beast. Tattoos, nope. Barcodes, people thought barcodes were. Currency forms, everyone's like, oh, this is it, this is the end. Look, there's no way for us to know what any of that means or could mean. But we don't need to be walking around full of fear that this is the thing. Because fear is of Satan. And we are not of Satan. You have the Holy Spirit dwelling in you. Don't be fearful. Also, in this book I was reading last night by a really smart guy, he was saying that if the mark of the beast happens in the way that some of us think it's going to happen, it's going to be obvious. Like, it's not going to be like the way the Bible describes it, it's not like a sneaky thing that sort of gets in the back door. It's a this or nothing thing that happens. So we don't need to worry about it all of a sudden catching us off guard. By the way, we have a lot of different, there's a lot of different views historically about how things are going to play out in Revelation. And a lot of them talk differently about how that mark of the beast works. And there's a lot of good biblical basis for all those different views anyway. And as far as I'm concerned, we don't really know how it's going to happen. We don't. We know Jesus is coming back. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe this afternoon. But we don't need to be walking around worried. That's what I want you to hear. We don't want you walking around in fear of the technology, because that is not of God. Fear is not of God. The two major worldviews at play in all the developments we've talked about today and the things that will come that are yet to come are consumerism and naturalism, which I guess consumerism is sort of a subset of naturalism. Consumerism drives more of this than anything else. The internet, now again, some of these things are done for military purposes or governmental purposes, but vast majority of AI developments we've talked about today and that continue to be developed are designed for the internet, for general people consumption. But the internet has one goal, and that is to take your money. That is the goal of the internet. It would not be there if it wasn't making money. And here's the thing. The internet gets money when you're there. If you're not there, the internet people are not making any money. Mark Zuckerberg does not make money if you're not on Facebook. I mean, he makes money for other people, but you know what I mean. They're not making money if you're not there. And what they've found, using all of their algorithms that study you and study people and make Ron Swanson throw his computer in the dumpster, what they've found is that you stay when you're mad. It's true. You stay when you're mad. You last longer on a post when it upsets you than when it makes you... So, mad to laughter. And so what they found out was, we're just going to give you more things to make you mad. So, for instance, if you believe that the COVID vaccine is the most dangerous invention in modern medical history, Facebook knew you believed it, and they wanted to reinforce that belief. So they give you more stuff. On the flip side, if you believe that people who didn't get the vaccine are evil people that should be shunned from society, Facebook knew that too. And they gave you more stuff that said, oh, can you believe that person, that they didn't get the COVID vaccine? We should all hate them. And they put some stuff on you. They kept feeding you stuff that said, ew, ew. And even today, those things are still happening. Now, again, our internet overlords are real people, by the way, not computers. They also have agendas and stuff that they push into all of this thing too. The problem is, we go back to that whole loop thing, we end up thinking about things less and we respond more. We don't take time to think about it anymore. Again, we might have I'm sure in this room we have different opinions. We'll go back to that COVID vaccine, about the vaccine. And most of us in this room could have a lovely conversation with any other person in this room. We probably agree on 95% of the stuff in the world of us in this room. And we could probably even talk about vaccines and have a lovely, even if we disagree, we could have a lovely civil conversation. But you put it on the internet, and all of a sudden, we don't think anymore, we just start responding, we start reacting. And everything just gets all, gets all messed up. And AI technologies even increase this tendency more and more. So again, remember I mentioned that all the web is pornographically shaped. It's all designed to keep you there and to keep making more things that keep you hooked and keep you addicted to it. Because the more you're there, the more money they're going to make. Sometimes your friend or the youth pastor at your church might send you a whole bunch of stuff on Instagram all the time. And all of a sudden, all the posts you get on Instagram might look just like the ones he gets because he sends you so many that your little algorithm looks a lot like his little algorithm. And all of a sudden, I'm learning more about F1 racing than I ever thought I would ever need to know. So that was consumerism. Then we also have naturalism, which is our other big worldview. So And the naturalists, of course, believe that the world came from nothing. Which the more that I read about stuff, the more this is so unlikely. The more this is so unlikely. I mean, obviously, we read this book and we see it's not likely at all. But from a scientific perspective, the fact that life came from nothing is so scientifically unlikely that it's hard to even imagine. But the naturalists have a post-human vision. Because again, if life came from nothing, if there was nothing and then things started to develop and then there was humans, then why shouldn't there be a post-human world? And if we're the ones that are supposed to bring in this post-human world by creating something that's beyond us, that's fine. That's a terrible devaluing of human life. But if they don't feel like the life has any value, then why not move that direction? Naturalism is entirely opposed to Christianity. It doesn't mean that the creations of a naturalistic world are useless or evil. I mean, obviously, we have lots of technology that is created. We have buildings and structures and civilizations. So those are all good. But we need to understand that. When everything is nothing, the whole nihilistic view of everything is nothing, where it's going to all end up at nothing, then nothing really matters. You live however you want, you experience however you want, and then you die. So here's one suggestion I have to combat some of these worldviews that are pumping into your lives. The first is to Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and TikTok and stuff, they can't control you if you're not getting your information from them. Like, that's a very simple thing, right? Now, I'm not saying don't go on them anymore, but I'm saying let's be little. Now, it's one thing to like, oh, look at my neighbor's cat. That's a great picture of my neighbor's cat. It's another thing to go, oh, I'm going to get all my news. Where do you get your news from? Most people get their news from social media these days. Most people get their news from social media. So how do we combat this? Stop getting our news from them, number one. Here's a QR code. I'm going to leave it up here for a while, so you have a bit to scan it if you want to. This is for a email newsletter that I get 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. They do not send any other garbage with it. It's just Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and it's an email newsletter called The Pour Over. And they summarize, without any commentary, sometimes snarky commentary. It's kind of interesting, kind of funny to read, but they don't give any kind of bent to it. They say, these are the things that have happened in the world since you have last gotten an email from me. So I get the news a little bit late, which is fine. My wife and I both read this, and it takes about 5 minutes to read it. And the idea is it is the news with a Christian bent. So they'll throw in some Bible verses, maybe a little bit of a thing like how should we respond to this news story. But there's no political agenda with anything written in there. There's no worldview agenda except for, again, pointing. All it does is it says, this is what's happening, point back to Christ. This is what's happening, point back to Christ. That's the whole thing. It's free. They have a paid plan if you want to help support them or whatever. And there are some ads that, again, no picture ads because they are really nice about that. They just have organizations they work with that help fund them. You'll see like little write-ups of ads in there. But it's really, really a great system. There's also a website called Tuvu, T-U-V-U, that is trying to be a social media for those of us who hate social media. I hope they succeed, but it's a very hard road for them. Tuvu has 0 ads, which means you have to pay for it, and it's $50 a year to pay for it, which means it's not useful to go on it until all your friends are on there. And they won't get on there unless you're on there, but you won't get on there if they're not on there. So it's $50 a year, but they have 0 ads, and the timeline, which is that list of things that you see, only comes up chronologically. There's no fancy algorithm trying to feed you stuff that you want. There's just the things that you missed in chronological order, which is what Facebook used to be before it got more complicated. And so Tuvu, I have hopes for this. I'm not on there yet, so you can't find me on there. But I have hopes that more things like that begin to be developed, because that will give us the social connection that we want. Because we want to see our neighbor's cat pictures, right? but we just don't want all the other garbage that comes with it. So the next question we have to ask ourselves is, this stuff is coming. So we've got these virtual assistants, we've got all this stuff. How will our treatment of AI change us? It's going to sound weird, but hear me out. Do we treat our virtual assistants well? I mean, have you ever yelled at Siri or Alexa? And they're like, just calm down now. You know? Alexa is programmed to respond with like pseudo emotions based on how you talk to her. There's this thing they call the uncanny valley, which is the place where it gets so real that now it's creepy. That, especially with robots, like it's like, okay, now it's weird. But if we humanize everything, if we make everything feel like it's a human, but then we treat it subhuman, does that eventually bleed into how we treat real humans? So human dignity should be at the center of any ethical decisions we make with AI. And then on the flip side of that, what do we lose when we talk primarily to machines? So if our primary communication is to a machine, what are we losing then? Remember when we only talked to each other through Zoom for like a year? Remember that? It was awful and we hated it. We lost something staring at a screen for all that time. We lost the nuance available in human contact. I talked earlier about we can easily divulge our souls to bots because they don't judge us, but there are AI counselors you can go see now. Now, they're programmed to do things like if they see someone who's severely suicidal, they push them to get to a real human quickly. But you can go to an AI counselor and you can tell your whole life story to them and who, you know, they're not going to judge you. We are redeemed into embodied relationships. This group of people here and those of us that gather each and every week, this is a gift from God. We're supposed to be together, not in front of a screen and talking to a robot. We're supposed to be with people. That's how we're made. The word robot itself comes from the old Slavonic word robota, which stands for servitude or forced labor. Robots, by definition, do not have free will. They can only do what they've been programmed to do. And even if they're programmed to randomly not choose to do their programming, it's still making a deliberate choice, right? But if we turn robots into slaves and we treat them like slaves, then what do we become? Slave owners. A robot has no personality. So some robots have no personality, like your Roomba. Who has a Roomba? Anybody have a Roomba? Have you named your Roomba? I know people have named their Roombas. So the Roomba just performs the task. But C-3PO, on the other hand, he becomes a friend. So what if robots become a part of our family? I mean, what if you're like, oh, I love my robot. He's my friend. His name is Michael. Does a robot being a machine make our treatment of that machine any less real? You ever kicked a computer or your car? It's like, when will you start? And all of a sudden it starts and you're like, oh, okay. But does our treatment of machine make it less real, especially when it looks like a person? Because those are already out there. Human robots said Saudi Arabia has a robot citizen. It was a publicity stunt more than anything else, but they have a robot citizen. So we're not harming someone made in the image of God, but we're probably harming ourselves if we're treating the robots poorly. And then I talked earlier about WALL-E. If robots serve our every need, do we lose our purpose? A lot of this in this transhumanist thing is a desire. It's a desire to become gods. That's what some of these people want. They just want to become gods. I'm going to be Dr. Frankenstein and create life. Ray Kurzweil, Paul sort of said this earlier too. Ray Kurzweil, that one of the founders of pioneers of AI, said, he was asked, does God exist? And he just said, not yet. Not yet, is what he said. Intelligence does not equal consciousness. But AI takes those two and separates them. And they're supposed to be together. Again, we have the same materials that God used to make us. So why can't we just create another person, right? They call it Homo Deus, human God. What happens if we create something that can replace us? That's the vision of some of these people. I hope it doesn't happen. I don't think it won't happen in any of our lifetimes, that's for sure. The Southern Baptist Convention last summer, I will not read it because it's long, passed a resolution on AI. And it says, we are created in God's own image, God bestowed upon every human inherent value and dignity, no matter their background, race, ethnicity, national origin, or language. And following these God-given responsibilities, government should promote peace and order, including borders, immigration policies. That's the wrong one. We encourage all those who employ these AI tools to do so in honest, transparent, and Christ-like ways that focus on loving God and loving our neighbor as ourselves, never seeking to willfully deceive others or take advantage of them for unjust gain or the accumulation of power. That's just one of the lines in here. And this is a really wise statement on artificial intelligence and emerging technologies. But the thing is, Pandora's box has already been opened. We can't put everything back in. This is the world we're living in now and the world we're living in the future. Industry, business, transportation, all of them rely on these digital technologies and more on AI specifically. And they've permanently transformed the world and continually are transforming the world. So now we need Christian wisdom each and every step of the way. But even if we were to say, okay, I'm going to unplug from everything. Some people have said, okay, we're just going to leave. We're going to start our own Christian commune in Montana, and we're just going to get out of here. Your neighbors are not unplugging. So even if we unplug, we need to help respond to this properly for the sake of those around us that do not know Jesus Christ. I know, and some people use this phrase, we are living in unprecedented times. Do you know how many generations have said the phrase, we are living in unprecedented times? Hundreds and hundreds of generations have said that. That's why Solomon said, there is nothing new under the sun. And you're going, what about AI? He's like, yeah, but it's the same stuff. It's just being put in different ways. Solomon's like, I had idols back then I had to deal with. You guys have different ones. Your idols talk. Ours just sat there. That's the only difference. We should not be intimidated by novelty. It's new, it's nerve-wracking sometimes, but we should not be intimidated by novelty. So here are three things. If you've not written anything else down all day, write these three things down. 3 things we should be doing. Number 1, practices. Practices. This is how we combat the digital world we live in and focus on God. We develop habits and practices that focus on truth and the Word of God. Pray. Read the Bible. Go through Philippians chapter 4. What are the things we're supposed to be thinking on? Whatever is excellent, whatever is praiseworthy, whatever is right, whatever is true, whatever is pure, whatever is noble. Think on those things. The internet wants you to think on the opposite of all of those things. Think on those things. Develop a spirit of love and a sound mind. You have the Spirit of God living in you. That's the spirit that He's given to you, not a spirit of fear. It's really easy to be fearful in a wild and changing world. We can only do this through Christ and through His Word. So develop the practices. If you were here at our Ash Wednesday service, I shared that I've deleted my Instagram app from my phone. It was sucking my life away. Now, I've trained all my algorithms really well, and they only show me funny stuff. But it still was sucking my time away. And now I'm missing out on some funny things, I'm sure. But more funny things will be generated because of the funny things that I'm missing. They have to be replaced. Focus on Christ and His Word. Second, people. Practices and then people. We have this connected world we're living in, but it is hyper lonely. It is so lonely, the world that we live in. Remember Wilson, the volleyball from Castaway? He needed connection. He needed relationship, and so he put blood and straw on a volleyball. Did anybody cry when Wilson put out to sea? It was a moment. It was a moment. Did you ever think you'd be so sad about a volleyball in your entire life? To actively resist dehumanization of digital technology, we have to do something even more difficult. We have to gather. And while there are many things that we could say about cultivating interpersonal relationships, seeking the faces of others and not just their usernames, arguably the most important gathering we can seek out as Christians is the gathering of the local church. It is this gathering that our Maker and Redeemer promises to be present himself. Where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I will be in the midst of them, he says. It is this gathering where we not only recover part of what it means to be an embodied person, but we draw nearer together to becoming fully human, transformed into the image of the eternal Son of God, the most human person in history. To resist the digital liturgies, we need regular immersion into the embodied community of God. We need to sing to one another, exhort one another, encourage one another, forgive one another, and laugh and cry with one another. The more we do so, the more transparent the facade of digital selfhood will become. And 3, we need promises. P's helps remember. So we have an actual person, an actual embodied person, Jesus Christ, to hold on to when there's no answers. We have an actual person to go back to when we're so full of screen-induced anxiety that we can barely breathe. Let's go back. This is Proverbs chapter 9. Wisdom has built her house. She has carved out her 7 pillars. She has prepared her meat. She has mixed her wine. She has set out her table. She has sent out her servants. She calls out from the highest points in the city, whoever is inexperienced, enter here. To the one who lacks sense, come, eat my bread and drink the wine I have mixed. Leave inexperience behind, and you will live. This is the call of Jesus Christ. Leave all of that garbage behind, and you will live. 1 Corinthians, Paul talks about that we have the power of God and the wisdom of God. And we need to approach everything with those 2 things, the power of God and the wisdom of God. God breaks through the digital noise to bring us wisdom and bring us peace. One more thing from this book. A lot of this, AI, the internet, everything that's happening right now, is a search for something beyond ourselves. It's a search for the other. It's a search for the else. It's a search for the next evolution of human whatever. But sometimes it's just, even again, that mindless scrolling that we can get ourselves into, it's a search for something else that's beyond who we are. We try to make a world that we do not have. We try to overcome things that are broken in our hearts, in our minds. So before I do some other concluding things, I'm just going to go ahead and read the end of this book, which is on my... this is C.S. Lewis. This is from The Weight of Glory. In speaking of this desire for our far-off country, which we find ourselves even now, I feel a certain shyness. I'm almost committing an indecency. I'm trying to rip open the inconsolable secret in each one of you. The secret which hurts so much that you take your revenge on it by calling it names like nostalgia and romanticism and adolescence. The secret which also pierces with such sweetness that when in very intimate conversation, the mention of it becomes imminent. We grow awkward and affect to laugh at ourselves. The secret we cannot hide and cannot tell, though we desire to do both. We cannot tell it because it is a desire for something that has never actually appeared in our experience. The books or music in which we thought the beauty was located will betray us. I say the books or the music or the technology developments or the websites that we thought the beauty was in will betray us if we put our trust to them. It was not in them. It only came through them. And what came through them was our longing. These things, the beauty, the memory of our own past, they're good images of what we really desire. But if they are mistaken for the thing itself, they just turn into dumb idols, breaking the hearts of their worshipers. For they are not the thing itself. They are only a scent of a flower that we have not found, the echo of a tune we have not heard, the news from a country we have not visited. Our God is for us, and he is with us. We do not need to fear as we go into the next stage of whatever happens in the world or in technology. Okay, here's a couple of things, a couple of resources for you. Of all the stuff I read, which again, I read a lot of books, this book, Digital Liturgies by Samuel James. It is not specifically about AI, but a lot of what you heard today on our Christian reaction to AI came from this book. And this is not a technical book like some of the other ones are going to be. This is just how do we deal with the world we live in today from a Christian perspective. It's very, very good. The second, if you really are into something and you want to dig into something that's going to take you a while, is The Artifice of Intelligence by Noreen Hersfeld. She just goes into about everything that you could have, but she's going to stick from a Christian perspective as well. I read some secular books too. These are only believer books written by believers that I've sent you. So this is going to be really technical, a lot of details, but you can read that. And the third is 2084 by John Lennox. John Lennox, he is sort of like this half century's C.S. Lewis. So he's a professor emeritus of mathematics at Oxford. He's extraordinarily intelligent. He's debated Dawkins and Hitchens and a lot of the big atheists of today. You want a guy that really knows his stuff. John Lennox is the guy. What I like about this book is it starts with AI, it ends with the gospel. I mean, it's just tremendous. Also, check out Samuel James's website, Digital Liturgies. He just has a blog going there. Some of it's paid, some of it's free, and you can see just some of the things he's writing about. Again, the pour-over, there's that QR code for the pour-over again. There's a website called Midnight Oil Productions. You can find them on Facebook or Twitter. That guy is sort of one of the leading Christian voices in creatively using AI. So things that are creative and stuff. He's writing articles and he writes a lot of things on there. Speaks at conferences and stuff too. So those are some things. If you will give me 5 minutes, you can run to the bathroom really, just 5 minutes, so I can get the questions figured out, and then we'll go to those questions.
Where were we supposed to send it if for some reason it didn't send it?
Oh yeah, so if you have a quick question, 97,000 or david.e@trinitymentor.com. Is Ty here? Did Ty run away? All right, anybody exhausted by all that? Yes. Okay, good, me too. There was a lot. This was called the fire hose morning, not the... All right, I got a couple questions. Kathy's going to help me get the rest of them up. Let me pull up a couple of these questions, and I can start answering them. That's fine. Hopefully I can answer some of these questions, but I might not be able to, so then I will say I can't answer that question. Let's see. AI host of Jeopardy. Didn't Watson host Jeopardy once? No, I know he was on it, but I thought he may have. But yeah, I suppose, yeah, that's possible. Yeah, I think it's when these AI are trained, there is some sort of ethic or worldview that usually goes along with their training. I know I'm not reading the question, but I'm answering it. But there's sort of an ethic or worldview that goes along with their training, and some of it is intentional, and some of it's unintentional. Like when I said, like the wolves, like that was unintentional. They didn't know that they were training the wolves. They were training the bots to see snow, but they were. To make their... Oh, is there an ethical responsibility for these companies that make their Bibles public? I mean, I suppose yes. I think there should be. But I think again, with some major project like Bible translation, this is where we need to use the AI as a tool, but not trust it to do a good job. So use the AI as a tool, but know that it's going to make mistakes. So then all the editing that would normally go into a Bible translation needs to go into it. I also got a question. Are there instructions for ChatGPT you recommend to help interact more responsibly? I would say, I mean, the way I see it is, if you're always nice to the AI, then when they take over, that they remember you as one of the good guys. So that's what I always say there. But more importantly, again, just know that whatever they spit out, I didn't mention this. I'm sorry. Thank you for asking this question. I didn't mention this. One of the things we need to keep in mind is, especially for I don't know what different careers and companies we have in this room, but as AI, right now, one of the biggest things is AI taking artist jobs away. So when I can make that nice, idyllic Norwegian scene in a Baroque style in about 10 minutes, why would I pay someone to do that for me? And it cost me $20 a month to do that. Thank you. So why would I pay someone to do that? So again, I think it's important for us to consider where we may have been paying $20 a picture at a stock photo website that somebody took time to make. We can now pay $20 a month and do that. So there's this one side of it's like, okay, it's a tool that we have that we can use and we can save some money and we can get pretty good results. The other side is, who is not getting paid because of what we're using? So I think that's one of the big ethical questions we have to ask ourselves is like, yes, it's okay, but also who is not getting paid because of what we do? And that's going to go for media. I listened to a podcast. This guy had trained his own voice on AI. He generated the script using AI, edited it himself, put it back in, and he never had to record one word of it because the AI read it back in his own voice, and you would never have even known it wasn't him. And so that's a good use of tools, and he's just saving himself time. He's not taking someone's job away because he has all the ability to record his own stuff. But that's something we have to sort of keep in mind as well. Let's see. Oh my gosh, we've got lots of stuff. And then of course, right along with that, copyright. That's a question about copyright. Copyright's a big thing too. Where is this stuff coming from? It's got to pull from stuff that's already there and develop something. So then, again, if you're going to use some of these things in your own industries, then now we have to ask ourselves, who owns this? What is the copyright stuff? So those are all sort of questions that we need to begin to answer. I'm sure they'll probably get a couple of these. Regulations are going to be a big issue too. Like, how do we regulate this stuff? Who regulates this stuff? Who decides how they're going to be regulated? And we'll let the governments fight over all of those things. But that's going to be a big point of contention and arguments going forward, especially when it comes to things like military developments. And we saw after 9/11, we saw a change in how the world works. And we began giving up some of our privacy in exchange for security. And that has continued for the past 20 years and will continue even more and more as we go forward. So those are the questions we have to keep asking ourselves, like, how much privacy do we want to give up in exchange to be safe? And are we really safe with all of the exchanges that we make? So maybe we are, but maybe we're not. I'm not saying it's all gonna turn into 1984.
The one thing they got wrong in 1984 is that we all would want to be on camera.
Yeah, right.
Not all of us, but
Let's see. Oh, that's not that. Why is this? Oh. Okay. What day is it? It's March 9th. Sorry. Okay, here we go. This is a cool question. If I have an answer to it, but if the more we find out about the complexity of human nature, it becomes more and more plausible that we were created by a creator, will AI eventually figure out the same thing? And this person mentioned the movie War Games. Anyone seen War Games? So War Games was one of my favorite movies growing up. But the whole idea was they created this machine to help determine military strategy. And the machine eventually figures out that if Russia, in the middle of the Cold War, if Russia and the US began a thermonuclear war with each other, the whole world would be destroyed. And it said the only way to win the game is not to play. So the machine, which was designed to make military decisions, said we shouldn't make military decisions. So that is an interesting point. I do think that, again, with some of these developments that are happening, and this is just my opinion, that it's going to accelerate our understanding of the world and of how humans are made. Now, I think it's going to do both. It's going to, Kathy left her keys here. Not her car keys, though. She put them on my Bible. Okay. It's going to accelerate all of that information gathering. Now, from a naturalistic standpoint, they're just going to go, woohoo, we know more about what's going on. And from a biblical standpoint, we're going to go, oh my gosh, God was even greater than we ever even imagined. So I think so we're going to get both of those things. I don't think it's going to drive more people towards God, but I think it's going to let us see even more and more and more about creation, about what all God's done. I don't have an answer to this question. Can AI programs, they're building, now you can pay extra to Microsoft now, and you can have AI built into Office. You can do all sorts of crazy stuff. And the question was, can it set up templates for communication data processing? I would assume so, but I've not played with it because I don't want to pay the extra money. So
yes.
There you go. Yes is the answer to that.
You can, so with the Gemini, I just got Gemini. I've been playing a lot more with GPT-4. With Gemini, I don't know all the feasibility yet, but you can set up all sorts of systems and efficiencies to be able to, it works almost like a virtual assistant. The nice thing about it, I see it as ways that set up efficiencies so it can free up my time to have more people interaction, so I don't have to check my emails, it can auto-respond to things, so it can be used for good too.
Yeah, it's going to be really helpful. All right, that's all the ones we're sending. Anyone have any other questions they just want to ask, or that I just got? I know it's just a ton. Yes, sir.
When and where are we going to be able to see the video?
Oh, of this? Oh, yeah. So this video is on our YouTube page. Go to our youtube.com/Trinity Mentor, or you can go to our website for the next 90 days. After 90 days, our website's off of there, but you can find it right on our website for the next 90 days. So if you want to watch this again, or share it with somebody, maybe it'll end up in their feed, and the algorithm will help them get it. So I hope this was helpful information to you. I hope that you're leaving both less scared and more scared. No, I'm just kidding. I hope that you're left a little more conversant with what's going on. Again, I want to reiterate that God was around before creation started, and He's got the whole future figured out, and we're on His side of the future. So we don't need to be, as much as this stuff is weird and makes us nervous and stuff, we don't need to be worried about it going forward. But it's good to have an understanding. It's good to be educated and knowledgeable and have understanding. So thank you all for coming. Hopefully see you tomorrow.
Nice job. Thank you very much. Yes, that was really informative. And like he said, the truth will set you free. I mean, you fear things that you don't know. You fear things that you're not sure are true. So to understand the truth behind stuff is going to set us free even from fears and things like that. That was really good. Couple of things. If you like deep dives, just so you know, April 6th, I will be doing a deep dive on the book of Hosea and the minor prophets. We're going to start a sermon series right after Easter on the book of Hosea, and then we're going to do a few minor prophets early in June. So a deep dive then. And then, just so you know, a deep dive in May 11th. And that will be on C.S. Lewis, his life, and his works. And we're also going to have a track at the same time for your children. So we will be doing a deep dive on C.S. Lewis, and for the kids, they will be doing a whole deep dive on the Chronicles of Narnia. And then part of my hope then is we will then launch almost in a not terribly organized way. You can be a part of it all summer long because so many of our small groups take a break in the summertime. Anyone that wants to, I'm encouraging, go get a book by C.S. Lewis. We'll talk about it then. And start a reading group in your home or at Panera or whatever so that all summer long we will, as a church, as individuals and groups, we will be reading the books of C.S. Lewis however you want to do it. So those are the next two things coming up. I'm really glad you came out. Grab a granola bar as you go out. I'm going to pray for us, and then, God willing, I'll see you tomorrow morning. Let me pray. Father, thank you for this, and thank you for all the information, more than in many ways we could handle, and so help us think through those things. Lord, I thank you for the balance that David presented, both the benefits as well as the cautions that we need to have. I thank you as he reminded us as well that you are sovereign, you are providential, and we trust you even as we go into a future that, whether we're old or young, can be kind of scary and we don't quite understand. Thank you, Father, that you are our Father. We pray for your protection and for your guidance, even as we move into a future that we don't know much about. I pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.